Hey everyone, and welcome back to another altered video. New deck to showcase this week. We've got an Axiom deck finally on the channel. Big fan of that. It's the last one we needed to do, but I've been holding off because brown ain't really my thing. However, this one is a bit more of a fun list, I think. Finally got something that I think I can enjoy playing. So, we're going to go through it, play our regular 3 games, see what we can do to make it better. Um, This deck is all about ripping through as much of it as possible, hoping to set up a situation in the end game where we can either take over or push over the finish line with our brass bug hives. I only running 2 of those because we don't want to see too many of them, but it might be a bit of a rough situation if we draw too many of those early. It may make our hands a little bit funky. But running a lot of ways to activate that enters ability. So creating a brass bug token obviously comes in, gains a boost, so you can get 3 boosts per activation. And that's pretty much our end game plan here. Hopefully getting one of those to stick and using our 3 copies of mechanical training, 3 copies of Inari with the support ability, 3 copies of Gibble as well. Gibble? I don't know. I like Gibble. It's fun to say. And the rest of the deck is built around just ripping through as much of it as we can. We'll go through 2 Foundry mechanics, just a couple things to play early or potentially put into reserve a bit later if we've got Treyst and Rossum running. So when we have our 5 scrap counters, draw a card, put something in reserve. We've got a lot of options there as well. So we'll go through those. Foundry mechanic, the Grems has a reserve ability as well. Sacrificing a permanent, it's pretty likely that we've got one we can get rid of a little bit later through the game to make the brass bug token. Works really well with the hive because that also gets the boost. 3 Tinkerbells for interaction. And then we'll go through the uniques in a little bit. Frozen delivery is resupply as well. Got 2 copies of bug fix. You know, same idea with the brass bug hives. This is just mana efficient out of hand, spending a counter from a card I control or in reserve to make a 2/2 brass bug, 2 power for 1 mana. Pretty good deal. And a lot of resupply out of our permanents. So if we don't have the brass bug hive up and running, we can rip through like heaps of our deck with the Ouroboros. So look at the top 2 cards. One goes to reserve, one goes to the bin, and then you've got 3 copies of Haven, Bravos Bastion, 2 copies of Tech Lab Unit as well, which all resupply. So they are a valid target for your frozen deliveries, Jivels and Inaris. The way I was building this deck out, it's probably a bit slow to start. Obviously very fragile when it comes to interacting with permanent removal as well. These are all pretty expensive, so we'll have to try and find places to put those into play where we're not losing out too much. Don't really want to get one of them into play for a 2-for-1, but we're going to see how it goes. I do like clicking buttons or playing cards when I get them. No point putting the cards in the deck if you don't see all of them. But we'll go through the rest of it as well. So 2 copies of Anansi at rare, gaining a boost per card in reserve. If you are grinding and finding ways to get cards into reserve, this guy can get pretty big, very mana efficient if you've got either a full or overfilled reserve. So interacts well with Frozen Delivery, which puts 2 cards into reserve on its own for the 1 mana. So Frozen Delivery plus Anansi is just 4 power for 4 mana, and obviously if you've got anything in reserve already, it just gets more efficient. And then I guess we're going to go through the unique. So an extra copy of Anansi that I had, Putting a card from hand into reserve is actually a bonus in this deck. So it gains a boost for each card in each player's reserve. So if you're playing against something that has, you know, a lot of resupply in it, so many Mooner lists, Lyra lists, I would say, you know, that can get extremely big extremely quickly. The other one, Ouroboros Croupier, when it leaves the expedition, put a card from hand in reserve. Again, we do like to see that, and you can either draw a card or resupply, both of which are pretty good. And then the last one we have is just a designer drone. So 2 mana from hand for a 3/2/2, pretty good deal, and it can sort of just sit in reserve, gaining those boosts. And if it gets up to the max, so you just exhaust it the turn after you play it, gains 2 boosts, and then 1 more the turn after that. When you're ready to play it, it becomes a 6/5/5 for 3 mana. You also get a sabotage if you control the 2 permanents, so we're definitely looking to see that. This is absolutely not an optimized or probably even a good list. Probably focusing a little bit too much on ripping through the deck with the Ouroboros to be, you know, very threatening on board, early on at least. And yeah, we're going to get into it, you know, go through the process together. This one haven't actually played before trying to record it, so we're going to see how we go. Couple of things I'm worried about. You know, got a lot of 1 mana spells, but they aren't very good early on, so we don't have a lot of ways to challenge expeditions on turns 1, 2, 3 that are going to be as or more efficient than what our opponents can do. I think if you look through here, the only cards themselves that actually put 1/1/1 stats on board for the amount of mana you put into them is the Inari. Everything else, you know, got to try and accrue value that way. So all we're looking to do is draw more cards than our opponents, look at more cards in reserve, and just give ourselves more options down the track. Try and bleed them out that way. You know, part of my deck building philosophy is that you build it all gas, no brakes early on. Figure out what cards work, what cards don't, and how you need to support it. So we don't actually run any removal in this deck. So no avalanches, no Keylon bursts, nothing of the sort. It's very low on interaction as well. So the 3 sabotages, 3 ways to get rid of cheap permanents with the Grems. You know, going to be trying to sort of just race our opponents, or sort of keep up until we can really take over with that Brass Bug Hive. Because if you do end up in a late game situation where you have the Hive and an Ouroboros out, for example, got your 5 counters on Treyst and Rossum, you got a lot of ways to activate it. So, you know, Gibble in hand is good, an Ari in hand is good, or just playing it out and then, you know, from reserve. And that's kind of the plan. Not too much going on here. Sorry for the late upload. I had to re-record this introduction, so you know, say hi to future Bleenies, because I already know what happens in the games, but we'll be back to normal soon. All right, gonna move on to game 1. I'll see you there. Alright, here we are, game 1 with our Treyst and Rossum Axiom deck. Finally showcasing a brown deck on the channel. Very exciting. That's all 6 done. We do have 1 of each. We're playing first. Let's see what we're up against. Ataja and Nora. Obviously don't have as much experience with this deck as I have had some in the past. So let's figure out what it is that we're gonna do. Alright, I think 2 of the activate entries. Support abilities is too many. 2 Ouroboros is obviously unnecessary. going to keep as well. We could Ada plus Foundry Mechanic turn 1. Doesn't really block our opponents from doing anything. Like a Spindle Harvesters with the boost would win anyway. I would like to keep the Inari around. I reckon the Mechanic is probably less valuable. Let's try this. I don't know if I made a mistake. Let me know if I did. Keeping the Foundry Mechanic around might have been the right thing to do here. Alright. And play the Inari. Decent stats, turn 1. Playing the Lovelace turn 1 would have been better for tempo, seeing as we would keep... We'll get access to the reserve ability earlier, but yeah, would have opened ourselves up to losing that expedition 0 to 1 for our opponent. So we'll keep it even for now. See how we go. It's a bit early for the Brass Bug Hive, I think. Not getting that one down anytime soon, especially considering we got rid of one of our cost reducers. Not playing many of those today, so we'll see what we get done. Two, 1, we can't stop our opponent from advancing on the companion side, so we'll trade here. We get a free frozen delivery as well. And Nancy's good. Definitely like that one from hand, but having it cheaper isn't too much of a problem. He might have gone nuts with the Inari had we been able to keep that one in reserve, but you know, we're playing what we have here. Still haven't found a way to get that Ada into play. We could have done it here, but I feel like keeping the card would have been advisable. So let's see, what do we get? Alright, Bug Fix and Tinkerbell. The Tinkerbell would be good if we found a way to get it into reserve this turn. 2, 3, 4, 5. Not going to be able to contest too well. So we could play a Nancy plus Ada plus Bug Fix. This Ouroboros has been sitting in our hand. Do we take our medicine and try and get that one rolling as well? Get rid of the Haven, keep the frozen delivery. Purely because we don't want to play that one this turn, and we might have had to get rid of it. That may have been a mistake, but as I said, we're learning the deck. Try and figure it out, see where we're at, see if this has any legs. I did build this one off of my own slightly deranged mind. So I do apologise if it's not the best deck. But that's what we're here for. I always like to give it a go before looking at any lists online to see what other people are doing. You know, try and seek inspiration rather than, you know, just something to copy, because you always want to be playing it on your own. Off your own back, you'll understand your deck a little bit better if that's the case. Alright, so we've got a Santa Claus. What is our opponent going to play? Is this... Can I play this? Okay, I didn't understand how that worked. Why was it highlighting all of the other... Oh, play a card with hand cost 3 or less for free. Interesting. I'll gain my scrap counter. Then I think... Another frozen delivery. I think we'll just do that to cycle through more of our deck. Oh, sorry. Picked the wrong one. I gotta remember that you picked the card to discard with the Ouroboros. But at least this gets us a few scrap counters further through the deck. Okay. 3 or less, so if he plays the Santa Claus, we may actually get to play the Tinkerbell. Obviously they'll be able to play the Floral Tent before doing that. But if he does, we can just sabotage it. I am having fun ripping through the deck like this though, I do have to say. I like the designer drone. Colours don't line up with its green at the moment, so we will block them pretty well. On the hero side, I'm already considering the companion side a bit of a wash. We do have a decision to make here. Bug fix, we do have ways to get rid of cards as well, so out of reserve. So we could recoup the token loss, or counter loss off of Treyst, but it is very efficient. This Ada has been sitting in our hand a little. No, I'm going to keep that one. I like her. Alright, let's see what our opponent does. I'm exceedingly curious. They can see the sabotage. So I believe what we shall be doing here is discarding the Santa Claus. Don't trust him. Want to keep them off as much anchored as possible. It's really that second ability that I was concerned about more so than the first one. Don't want to sacrifice our... No, I don't want to sacrifice our Ouroboros just yet, although we have no ways to trigger it right now. And if we... Alright, so we do have a line here. We could put a card into hand, put Ada into reserve from our hand, which would let us trigger the reserve ability. We could put the designer drone in there. However, with only 3 mana left, the only option that we would have would be to play the bug fix. So that would result in 1, 2, 3 cards going into the reserve, so we'd have to get rid of one. Don't have any chance to play a Tech Lab unit or anything like that. So I believe... believe our best option is just to play the Grems here. Don't really get anything of significant value. Remove the Floral Tent. Only got the 1 mana left, so our opponent must know that we are only going to be unable to remove anything. Alright, another anchored card. We'll play the Bug Fig. No, oh. I messed up. Forgot to draw the card with Treyst. That's disappointing from me. Missed out on that one. That was a free chance to put the Designer Drone or the Ada into hand. What do we got here? Oh, Jesus. That is a ridiculously good unique. Scout 2, so it's a plants only charge, but every plant draws them a card, so that is a massive refill from them. Exceedingly scary. But that's alright. I guess you just you end up expecting that some of the time. See what they get rid of. Another Bug Fix and an Ada. We'll only need one of those. Yeah, obviously our opponent just drew a redonkulous amount of cards in a turn. However, big old misplay with the Treyst and Rossum. Because if we had another card in reserve here, we could have drawn a card, so we'd actually be 2 cards deeper through our deck as well. Yeah, it doesn't look great for us here. Just gonna have to try and get some cards into reserve. Get some stats on board if they play the Aron here. Draw 3 more cards. We should at least survive. But we're not in a great spot. Alright. That's okay. Learnt one slightly foolish thing here. But that's part of the process. I'm glad it started early. Let's get rid of a counter here. We also have a counter to take off the Designer Drone out of reserve. So we could have played both of our Bug Fixes and still had our scrap counters ticking up to 5. Beauty Sleep. Yeah. Alright. That's a concession from us because they can just Beauty Sleep another card. But that's okay. We'll hit them with a GG and move on to the next one. See you there. Alrighty, welcome back. Game 2 of our Treyst and Rossum Axiom deck. We are indeed tracing the process after a pretty close fought and I am going to say well flubbed game 1. Definitely had a line there. Got a little bit too eager beaver to start off with. And yeah, missed out on potentially potentially winning that game by sabotaging our opponent's hooked at the end, just because we tunnel visioned on making a play. Alright, so we've got options. We could give up a 2 for none, play the Haven, get that out early, but I think we'll just try and force a 1v1, 1-4-1 against Fen and Crowbar here. See what our opponent wishes to do. Okay, magical training, that might be good. We'll pass the turn, let them do as they see fit. Incaster puts the magical training back in their hand, pretty good from them. We'll move on. So, kind of just built this deck while, on my breaks at work, so it is obviously not the most well optimized. It does seem fun, but I am going to employ the help of anyone that is capable to help us build it out from here. Part of my process lately has also been I think we'll get rid of the magical training here. I'll explain why in a second, but if you've got any suggestions, any comments to make that you would be okay sharing with me to help improve this deck. Brown is obviously not my strong suit. Definitely took the longest to be convinced that we needed to play, and I'll take any help that I can get. Alright, we've got options. We can resupply with the Haven, see what we get done here, get that one out as well. No permanents from our opponent, so the Grems is looking a little bit shonky here. Can either choose to resupply with the Inari and see what comes out. We'll see what our opponent wants to get done. If they play the Incaster, I think we risk the biscuit with dropping the Grems, or dropping Ada and sending the Grems to discard. But we do have the option of playing the Inari as well. Obviously we'll be able to boost whatever we play out of reserve too, so maybe it's worth just getting the Grems out of there and trusting the deck to provide. Although I would have liked to get the Ada into reserve on this turn if I can manage. Alright, 2-2-4. Choose to anchor it. Alright, we will do it. Try and take a small lead here and give ourselves some breathing room. Play out the Inari, gain a boost, stop them from advancing. They've got no options because the Incaster is also left reserve. And we are marginally ahead. I think I would still appreciate their position here, 4 cards in hand to the 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we'll try and get a little bit of extra value here. Play the Foundry Mechanic and get some stats on board. Oh, those are 2 very good cards that our opponents have just revealed. So they will be able to swap our boosts. Although we could play around this by just accepting that the little mouse is coming down. if we do that, we would be handshaking, play Tinkerbell and Ada to get some power on board. I think we'll do it. We'll keep the Haven around. We could sacrifice, make a brass bug and really lock it up. But I do like having him about for now. Notably an errated card in Axiom. The red deck that we've been playing recently, Basir and Kaizaimon, it's got the original printing there, so every creature gains a boost from reserve. This one only gives it to one character per turn, so it's a little bit of extra power, but we'll see what we get done here. So if they play the little mouse, have 5 power on board. They would advance as well. We're gonna try and convince our opponent that that's what we want to do. Unfortunately, all of our creatures are pretty sorry on the green side, so we can't actually stop them from advancing. So we will be giving up a 2-for-1 here and evening everything up. If they play the little mouse, that is. Alright, they're making a decision. So if they do play out the mouse, that's obviously the card that we see. That would let them win an expedition on their companion side here. No matter what they do, we're most likely putting the Foundry Mechanic in hand anyway. Can't stop them from advancing, but we can get one back too. So we'll do that. If we could have blocked them, I would have been very happy to do that. But the Sap Duende there wouldn't have done too much against the Inkcaster. Would have just brought everything back down a little bit to parity and then have needed a 1-drop to help contest. So everything's evened up, we're back in the spot, but we did use that to set ourselves up for the next turn here. Ada and the Mechanic are both relevant from reserve. They get their magical training back. We'll see what our opponent wants to do. Alright, Ada can put one of these in from our hand into reserve. I'm thinking if we get the opportunity to, that the Tinkerbell would be the choice. I do like the idea of the Tech Lab unit as well, so we'll 2, 2, 3. We need 1 more mana to be able to play Ada, Tinkerbell and the Tech Lab unit. Unfortunately. Right, so the Cloth Cocoon, I think we punish that by playing the Tech Lab unit out next. Get access to a Gibble. Not what we want to see at the moment, though it would be good coming up. Gives us access to another resupply. We get to look at 2 more cards this turn. Should be pretty happy with that. We'll see if we can get something to play with our remaining 2 mana after Ada goes into play. Or do we just mechanical training here? I think we do. We'll see what our opponent wishes to do. They've actually not influenced the board just as much as us. They've got their 2 mana to go, so we should be able to trade if they play a 2 mana creature. They can also use a support ability on the Inkcaster, play a 3 mana creature, but we should still be able to reasonably trade here. Alright, we'll play Ada on the hero side, go 1 for 1. Pretty happy with that considering how the turn went. And I think we just filter through more of the deck here. Pass the turn. Starting to turn the corner, though I'm still not confident. What we really need to do is look for ways to either slow the game down so we can get there, or find a way to get what's it called? Brassbug hive into play. Alright, so we've got 2 Tinkerbells here that we could play. I would like to get the Ouroboros down, although I don't think we can afford the luxury at the moment. So, 3. Oh, that's scary. Okay, we've got a lot of options here. Maximizing the stats on the Anansi would involve playing it first, but we do open ourselves up to 2 forms of removal and 1 way to get rid of all of its counters, which is what we're trying to avoid. So I think what it is that we're gonna do, so we'll get rid of the Twinkle Twinkle because that's the most usable card here. Either reduces the cost of something else by 1, costs 2, or we can get them to use the X marks the spot, which reduces up, uses a bit more of their mana. Magpeng Hoarder. Put Tinkerbell into play, into reserve. I think we're best off doing that here as well, so we'll chuck her into reserve. Not much we can do. Other than get rid of the X marks the spot, because then they just have 2 mana to try and contest us. They might not have been able to win anyway after using the 3 mana, but that's alright. We'll see what we can get done. We're on the cusp here. We're in a good spot, I think. Relatively speaking. They've still got 5 cards in hand to our 2. But we will be punching through quite a few cards if we can get it there. Aloe Vera. How many boosts? The Magpang has one boost, so they can't actually contest there. So we'll use the support ability. Drop the Haven. There's a Brass Bug Hub. We do like to see that one. So the resupply was good value there. Let's see. What will our next turn look like? We can play the Brass Bug Hive and then put the Anansi into hand, trying to protect. Oh, that's disappointing. Dusk. Alright, we've given up a 2 for nothing here. So we're going to need a help again. Unfortunately, the stats there lined up very well for our opponent. 0-1-4 for a 2. It's pretty good when we're both playing blue. Makes me sad. That's okay. We'll see what we can get done. We'll have to fade Sabotage and then a Cloth Cocoon from our opponent. Although I think if they have either of those, we are a little bit cooked. But that's alright. I'm wondering about the Haven here. Obviously a really good card. Got errated, so it's not quite as powerful as it used to be. Would have resulted in a couple extra power there. No, it wouldn't. We could have figured that out though. Alright. We're getting rid of the second Haven because that is definitely not the thing that we're going to do here. Our opponent resupplies a little mouse. That is thoroughly disappointing. That should be a instant snap, throw it onto the field, get rid of the Brass Bug. However, I think we can surmise that if they do not do that, they may have a Cloth Cocoon in hand. But they've done it anyway. That's reasonable. Alright, well we can't get rid of this big bloody thing in the middle of the screen unless I hit refresh. I think we'll play the Ouroboros here. It'd be really nice to see what our cards were. Alright, I'm refreshing. Sorry everyone. Okay, we've got a Grems and an Anansi. Nancy's looking pretty spicy here. Although the Grems is actually be 3-3-3 versus 3-4-4. Alright, we're keeping the Grems. We're doing it. So we've got the 3 landmarks in play, so we actually can sacrifice one here, because we would be doing that at the end of turn anyway. May as well get a little bit of value out of it. See what our opponent wants to get done. Let's see. And cost 3 or less gains anchored. Okay, so we actually do represent a fair few stats on board. I think what we're going to do, activate the Haven. Discard it as well. Had we had the brass bug out, this would have been a little bit stronger, but we also might not have been able to play the grams, so we'll see what we're getting done here. They're going to take our boost. What would that put them on? 6, 6, 7 to our 3, 4, 4. 6, 6, 7, 3, 4, 4. Inkcaster also works. I think it's ridiculously greedy to resupply here. So we're going to... No, the Enancy's just good. I think we just do the regular old thing. Alright, we'll win one back. I feel like I might have been able to do something a little bit more there. We might have been able to win a 2 for 1. A 2 for nothing. No, I don't think so. They're going to anchor the aloe vera here. Which will be pretty good for them. We'll pass. We've got the Inari for next turn. It is still pretty good on stats. We don't have to get rid of anything as well, which is nice. Thank you, Tech Lab unit. Very nice. Put the Saptuende back into hand. No Urabora. Sorry, no Haven means. That's fine too. Creepier stats line up amazingly here, so we're going to keep that. Tinkerbell to sabotage the Inkcaster looks good. Notably, our opponent's been drawing a lot of cards. We've actually ripped through more of our deck because of the Ouroboros here. Put the Tinkerbell into reserve. We'll play it against the aloe vera, sabotage the Anansi, because that's looking like a whole bunch of fat water stats. Let's see what we can get done. We're really trying to burn through so that we can play the Anansi without our opponent getting to... Without our opponent getting to drop that Saptuende on it, because that's just gonna... That's gonna end the game here a little bit, I think. Potentially. Don't think we can afford to play the Gibble either, so we're probably going to resupply with the Inari first. See what the top 2 cards of our deck are, then play the Croupier. Bravos Pathfinder. Alright, not too mad about that. Doesn't really matter. We'll pick the rare one. You know, paid for the damn cards. I picked the wrong one. I'm so dumb. Alright. Ugh! Oh, that was stupid. Oh, oh well, that's alright. It's a learning experience, right? I'll chuck the Gibble in there. I'm going to use him. Oh, alright. So we're going to have to check 322 plus a sabotage. I'm going to write that down. 322 plus a sabotage. Then we're going to count up at the end of this game whether that misclick actually lost us the game. So 322 means we are plus 2 plus 0 plus 1 from where the 8 leaves us for the same amount of mana. Use a tech lab unit this time, just so I spread all that out evenly. We're just going to fall short here a little bit, I think. Yeah. Disappointing. That's alright. I don't think it would have mattered in the end, although the sabotage for the Incaster might have been relevant. So we know Sap Duende's in their hand that we were trying to fade. We still wouldn't have been able to fade it unless the other card that they have is a 3-drop. But that's still disappointing to make a misplay that late in the game. It's 2 games in a row where we've had lines that potentially could have changed things. Can you tell I'm new at the deck? That's alright. I think we can call it there. So what we'll do is we'll concede the game, hit yes, hit him with a GG, move on to next. That's alright. We're learning. You never learn more than when you've made mistakes. That was a really fun game. Alright, and we'll be back in a moment with game 3. Hopefully I won't mess this one up. See you there. Alright, welcome back, game 3. We are currently tracing the process. Can you tell that I'm a big fan of that deck name? It's one of my favourites so far. Thanks for playing with the Fen and Crowbar deck as well. Alright. We are playing first against Basira and Kaizaimon. What can we see here? One of 2 Brass Bug Hives is probably a bit too greedy to keep. 2 Inaris is also a bit rough. Mechanical Training can go because we don't have any permanents to put into play. The last one, I think we'll keep 2 Inaris as pretty good stats. Let's just rip through our deck if we get a resupply in the landmark zone. But I think, yeah, I think given the texture of our hand, the Tinkerbell is going to be very slow. We do like seeing that when we've got our 5 counters, but before then it's a bit rough. What can we glean from the 2 games that we've got already as well? I think it is worth noting that, as lucky as we've been to draw them, this has been 3 games of 3 where we've started off with Inari, which is, you know, reasonable, stat positive, or stat neutral at the very least. Gets us into Gets us into the realms of playing cards, which is nice. We'll drop one of those straight up. See what our opponent wishes to do. Icebound Peak. So we take a 1 for none here. Don't mind that. Gives us a bit of breathing room moving forward. Although that Dragon Shade will be a bit scary. But it's only one turn. That we'll have to deal with it. Alright, and I think we need more turn 1 plays that let us play two cards, because going through the list, Bug Fix doesn't work turn 1. Frozen Delivery isn't great. Mechanized Production? No, that's a magic card. Mechanical Training, the one that lets you activate permanents, the support ability here, is also a bit rough. Don't need to worry too much about playing the Tech Lab unit just yet. We're likely going to look to play okay, we're not going to play the Inari. Okay. So the Croupier's stats line up a little bit rough here. Does let us get the Grems into reserve though, which we like. But we can use its reserve ability too. I think we actually just take our medicine, get a designer drone into reserve here. And we'll let our opponent even it up. I ain't too mad about that. Had they not sabotaged it, we could have played the Inari and the Grems. So, you know, good on them for that. We'll see. As much as I would like to get the Ouroboros into play, is the Haven more suitable here? I don't think it is, actually. We're going to exhaust our drone. I don't think we plan on playing that this turn. Now we could play Ouroboros and the Grems, go behind a little bit, but I think we'll play the Grems out on this side, see what they want to do with that information. Now, if we choose to activate the Croupier here, we are going to have to get rid of a card. So I think, yeah, reasonable. Happy to let him do that. Pass on the Croupier here. We'll see what we want to get done. Alright, A lot of things going to be leaving reserve this turn. We're going to have 6 mana, so we could play the drone and something else. I think we'll send the Gibble to reserve. To mana, sorry. We'll gain the boost with the drone. Threaten the use of that one first up. And what I'm thinking here is that we get a little bit gremmy. Yep. Discard a permanent. How likely is it that they have 2 fire rabbits in hand? Not very, but they're not going to get any value out of the Haven this turn. So I think we'll do it like that. Unless they, resupply into a 1 or 2 drop, depending on what the resupply is. Could be Floral Tent, could be a rare Haven. Interesting choice from our opponent. Do they want to play from behind? I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to hit him with an oh no. We'll pass the turn there. It's alright. We'll take one back, I think. We've made our own fair share of mistakes here. We'll do... You know, it's about time the universe gave us one back. I guess I'm going to do it to him. Get rid of their Haven. They don't know, but we did have access to that anyway. Just would have been, you know, down an extra card. But, pretty ruthless from us, I guess. We could bug fix and Grems here. We could sacrifice our tech lab unit. I think we'll play the Ouroboros. We'll see what gets done there. We've learnt this over the course of these few games. We will select the card to go to the bin and keep the other one instead of clicking the one we wish to keep. Can we get anything done here? We cannot. So we will trade 1 for 1. Unless they have a 1 drop in hand. So Tiny Jin and Bravos Blade Dancer both do it. So we will hope to fade those cards. Not sure that was the play. Maybe it would have just been smarter to play the croupier out to have a fire rabbit. Okay. Okay, they would have been able to go 2 for none here anyway. Alright, we'll pass the turn. We don't need to draw with the bug fix just yet. That would only cause us to have to discard something, so we'll take our medicine there. Couldn't stop them from doing that anyway. So they've evened everything up. What looks good here? Frozen delivery plus bug fix plus brass bug hive. Does look pretty juicy. The Grem's unfortunately not a robot. But we'll see what we can get done. We do have to get rid of something. Unfortunately, looks like it might have to be the Tinkerbell. Well, this is probably the greedy option, isn't it? We get a resupply, we might get something to reactivate the brass bug hive. That's really what we're looking for. Although they do get the chance to play first. I think if we were playing first, we'd have kept the Tinkerbell and sabotaged the rescuer straight away. We'll see. I guess we'll find out now whether we were smart to get rid of the Tinkerbell or being a bit greedy. That's okay. So my process whenever learning a new deck or trying to, figure out an archetype is always to play all gas, no brakes. Figure out where you can go from there. See what you need to do to pull back and control your opponent. Alright, so they do in fact drop the little fella. Alright. Oh, that's a pretty good draw. I'm going to put that down. Use its support ability. Play the brass bug hive. Make a bug on that side. Mighty Simbi looks pretty good. Target creature in your other expedition gains 2 boosts. So what are they going to boost? Probably the Simbi here. Reasonable from our opponent. No permanents to get rid of. Let's see if the last card in their hand is a fire rabbit. We're not going to advance here anyway, so we'll take the boost off of our little guy here. Put it on the hero side. Borrow a little bit of power to drop it over there. We'll pass the turn. We'll go 1 for 1 and see where our opponent wants to end up. You know, little trick there that we learnt from Sigismar and Wingspan. Our gift of cells are often directed at sides that we're gonna lose. So, I think we get rid of the tech lab unit here because we have 2 more reasonable permanents to have in play, or higher priority ones. The reason we dropped the brass bug on this side was because our opponent's unique. If it moves forward, lets them draw a card. So by playing there and not contesting on the other side, they're down a card from where they would be had we chosen the other side. And we'll figure that out. Alright, I'm going to put it on the hero side here, just so we can contest on the side that's powerful to them. Use Treyst and Rossum. Oh! So I was going to just resupply with one of the frozen deliveries. However, just going to get rid of their unique. So they're down to 2 cards. They've got a Haven. We show a frozen delivery as an after you effect. Is drawing a card or extra stats more important here? We nearly made the same mistake. Neither is a robot, so we don't care about that. But we're going to play the Anansi anyway, I think. Got a physical training. We can still use the remainder of our mana. Haven Warrior. So we shall frozen delivery here. What's worth more stats? We're actually going to get rid of the Haven here. Look to play a Nancy plus Grams. They're going to have 8 power. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll have 6. We can just win on both sides. There you go. Oh, no, they do draw a card. Is it a 1-drop? Shall. Alright, no removal in this deck. A Kaelon Burst here would be worth its weight in gold, but like I said earlier, all gas, no brakes, figure out what we can cut. We're 3 behind, so we could just tie. Yeah, no. So we could tie with the bug fix. But I believe this is just a winning line here as well. So we'll sacrifice the Ouroboros, make a brass bug. It'll gain a boost. And there you go. Got there in the end. GG. There you go. We did get one back. It did take a misplay from our opponent. But at this point, I will take it. Alright? little bit of little bit of positive to end the video on. Alrighty, there you go. Gonna see you in the debrief. Talk soon. Love your work. Alright, and there you have it. There's our 3 games done with Treyst and Rossum. We've traced the process. We've got a few good ideas about what to do moving this deck forward. I did actually enjoy playing it, so, probably not going to be a Axiom main anytime soon, but it's nice to have the option there. And if we play online with any of our friends, at least we've got a choice for every colour. We can dodge whatever it is that they want to play. Big fan of that. So a 1-2 a record against a Muna list, a Lyra list, and a Bravos list. This video was fraught with misplays, both from us and our opponents. Our opponent in game 3 decided to give one of our creatures a boost, and remove fleeting, which really did help. Still had a copy of Grems in hand that we could put into reserve, but cards are king. Keeping one of our cards around for pretty much no reason definitely helped us wrest control of that game away from them. In game 1, we sequenced our turn a little bit wrong, got too tunnel visioned on doing everything that we wanted to see, that we could see. Didn't adapt to the hooked that our opponent plays in the last turn before showdown. And I think had we done that, we probably could have won both expeditions and not been outstatted towards the end there. And I'll have to go back and look at the Lyra game to see what we did. I think we played things out a little bit wrong there as well, but I think it was probably a step too far for that one. We're probably already losing, but it would have been nice to be, a little bit closer to the finish line and not feel like we threw the game away, especially after the first one. 2 games in a row, that's embarrassing. Alrighty, so we spoke about it throughout the videos as well, but this deck definitely has a bit of trouble getting off the ground. Not a lot of turn 1 plays that feel good to make. I think we led on Inari all 3 games, and that's probably the best possible outcome for us, being the only mana neutral creature for the stats that you get out of it on turn 1. Obviously, Gibble is a 6/6, with 7 points worth of stats, would be good, but we can't play that turn 1 unless our opponent lets us cheat, and they usually find that disagreeable. Bug fix doesn't work on turn 1, and you sort of need a little bit of things to make that happen, even in the early turns that aren't turn 1. Frozen delivery is alright, but giving up on stats, we probably need to find ways to get more efficient creatures into this deck. Mechanical training only works if you've got a permanent in play. You do have the 10 to look at, but they come with their own problems as well. Pretty heavy mana investment to get those into play, so you're likely going down 2 for nothing if you do play them, so you've got to try and find ways to cheat them into play. The Foundry mechanics worked there occasionally. I don't know if it's worth looking at going up to the full 3 of those, plus adding more. I think it is called Foundry Engineer. Is that the one? Let's search for it. Yeah. So we could play some of these to reduce the cost of the permanents that we have. Doesn't really fix the stat issue at a 2/2 1 for 2. But reducing that cost down, bringing them out early and getting value out of your permanents might be good. I had to think about it after game 3. I do like that the Haven provides you with more targets for your mechanical trainings and your gibbles to look through your deck. However, I'm wondering if it would be a better idea to run 3 Keylon cylinders in that slot. So if you do end up with an incidental permanent activation, available to you, boosting a creature might actually be worth more to you. So we're gonna probably make that change. I don't think I'll go through and change much else, but the cards that I am looking at are the Gibbles. I don't think we're likely to ever actually play those, so they really are just the permanent activations, which can make your hands a little bit awkward. Got to try and find ways to fit removal into this deck as well. And Nancy's always good. I'm going to keep that one in for sure. Leaving the expedition, drawing a card with the Nancy and the Ouroboros Croupier, and putting cards into reserve with those I like. Surprised, but hadn't really thought about it, but the Designer Drone does actually work with Brassbug Hive too. So it gets a boost, and that's ridiculously efficient. But they're not the spots that you're going to look at to improve the actual deck. I'm wondering if the main function of the deck is a little bit too cute for Altered as well. I've got to say it is ridiculously fun. Chaining together Inaris and Gibbles and mechanical trainings through your Ouroboros and looking at 2, 4, 6 cards per turn. But if the wheels don't get rolling fast enough, do you have to think about making concessions to be to be a bit more of a threatening deck? The spots I'm going to look at are those permanents. We'll see. Might keep the Ouroboros in as like a one-of and try and get a couple of those Foundry Engineers in. Tech Lab unit is good, but I think if we're going to keep this level of permanent interaction or even increase it, probably going to have to look at finding ways to reduce the cost on those. As long as we're playing the Anansies as our ways to actually threaten expeditions, I think the frozen deliveries are pretty important. Mechanical training works as frozen delivery if you've got your permanents in play, but also if we have those Kalon cylinders, we might have access to ways to actually boost our creatures as well, and try and take our opponents off guard there a little bit. So I'm going to go off. I'm going to think about this deck on the can at work, and we'll see what we come up with for next time. Hopefully it's not too far away, but we've got a couple of things in mind. Maybe revisit some old haunts as well. Alright, last thing I'm going to say, I really appreciate you all. If there are any Axiom players that check into this video and have advice, please feel free to leave it in the comments. Let me know what's going on. This deck is one that this colour is one that I've been rolled over, on BGA quite a few times, but never really taken the time to play anything in it. So if you've got any advice for me, I'm always looking to learn. Any good cards that I haven't thought of, very much interested in hearing about that. The reason I picked Treyst and Rossum is because I got beaten by a bug fix deck. Obviously, Equinox has come out and said that they're looking at that interaction, for potential bannings or anything, and I don't own any of the cards that would facilitate that, but we're trying to make do, see if we can find something else fun to do. So if you've got anything for me, let me know. I'm always happy to try it out. Alright, I'll leave you there. Check back in next week for another video. We'll see what colour it is that we've got. If you've got one that you want to see in particular, anything that you've got coming up, let me know. I will I will endeavour to help out there. Alright, thanks so much for your time. I hope you're having a great week. Sorry for the late upload. Love your work. See you next time.